Hello, BookTube. I thought we'd continue with our library tour of we're at the middle west wall bookcase, and we're at bookshelf number 2. And I thought we'd start, as usual, with the transverse books that I pile on top. Starting with this, a nice illustrated edition of Lytton Strachey's Eminent Victorians. This is a collection of 4 lives of his. And I got this edition because it's illustrated. There are a million different editions of this book of Eminent Victorians, and I have, I think, 3 of them. There's even a Penguin Classic that I have. But I like for this room, if it's something that I reread over and over, and if it's something that I want in this room's collection, I like neat editions with personality. I like those. No idea where we're going to put these things while we're working. The next one is fairly recent. It's Dog Songs by Mary Oliver. A wretched poet, but these, of course, hit home. It was just a whole collection of poems about dogs in various stages of owning them, from puppyhood all the way to euthanasia, and captures really well. They aren't poems, of course. They're paragraphs put on the rack, but even so, I loved reading them. The next thing here, transverse, we have 4 comic books. I have no idea what they're doing here. These are the original issues of the great Kurt Busiek Marvels, with the acetone covers over them. There's issue number 1 with the original Human Torch, and these were, of course, collected into a graphic novel called Marvels, which is about the beginning of the Marvel universe, the beginning of Marvel superheroes. I don't actually know why I have these individual issues here in this room, except maybe that I really like them aesthetically. I like the plastic covering. I've always liked the feeling when you're dealing with a well-planned story like this, a 4-part story like this. I've always liked the feeling of the dramatic payoff of the issue ending, and you have to put the issue down and pick up another issue. I think that that dilutes a bit in a graphic novel. Well, that's my guess as to what here. And then the last with the transverse books is a mass market paperback. That's just ship of the line. A Star Trek The Next Generation novel, even though Star Trek The Next Generation is dirt boring. The reason that I have this, even though it's that, is because 2 reasons. One, it's written by Diane Carey, who's the best Star Trek writer of them all. Just fantastic. Oh, God, what a way she has with telling a story. And also because, as you might be able to tell from the cover, that is Kelsey Grammer, who appeared in 1 minute of The Next Generation as a time-displaced 23rd century Starfleet captain. And it turns out he's a major character in this book, which deals with a whole bunch of 23rd century Star Trek. So it's only very, very distantly a Next Generation novel. And the best thing about it is that there are a few scenes, long, glorious scenes, where Captain Picard is en route to a mission on his own, and he has holodeck programs made by Starfleet Academy with the cooperation of Captain Kirk, dramatizing earlier episodes in the original Enterprise's 5-year mission. Television episodes. So we get those written by Diane Carey with Jean-Luc Picard looking on from the viewpoint of his, a generation later, and those sequences are incredibly good, especially the one that dramatizes the classic episode Balance of Terror, where the Enterprise encounters the Romulans. I reread those parts over and over again. Diane Carey is very good for rereading. Then we'll get to the shelf itself, and this is something we've seen here already. This is a nice, pretty paperback of More Matter by John Updike, which I had the big red hardcover of it, and I got this. I'd much rather have this, as long as it's a really good paperback. So I got this, and I've been picking at it regularly, and I get the strong impression that my estimation of Updike's nonfiction, his endless mountain of deadline book criticism, is going to go up as time goes on, which is going to feel really strange, because I know that's not going to happen with his wretched fiction. And the next thing is like The Eminent Victorians. It's a classic that I have in many forms in the apartment, but the one I have here is one that I really like. It's Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, in this lovely old Aventine hardcover that has just room to breathe. and no critical apparatus whatsoever. Just I love it. That's why I've kept it in here. Then something I think we've also seen on this channel. This is By Land and by Sea. This is Essays and Addresses by Samuel Eliot Morison, a crusty old sea dog who has a statue here in Boston. I found this at the Brattle, I believe, and I wouldn't miss it. I love everything the man ever wrote. It's as warm and accessible and inviting as he himself never was. And then we have, again, another example of something where it's the format of a classic that has it in here. And this time the classic is Roughing It by Mark Twain. And it's in this beautiful old Reader's Digest hardcover edition that has just tons and tons of spot illustrations all throughout. And, you know, I know Roughing It really well. I love rereading it. But this is the version I want in this room. I want, for classics that I know I'm going to keep, I want a version in this room that I'm really going to enjoy rereading. So that's why this is here. And then we have, oh, this one's fairly big. And it's an ARC. It is a review copy only because no one ever sent me, Harvard never sent me the finished copy. This is the novel, A Biography. Look at the size of this thing, by Michael Schmidt. Who's just enthralling. Believe it or not, this is just enthralling on every page. As a history of the form of the novel, it's amazing. It really is endlessly readable, even though it's so intimidatingly big. And I kept this just assuming, as one does, that Harvard University Press would send me a finished copy, and they never did. So I'm glad I held on to it. Well, the next one is a minor bit of heresy. This is the Oxford Book of English Verse. But it's the Helen Gardner edition, not the Quiller Couch edition. So those of you who have any knowledge of my literary hero, Horace Rumpole, will know that he would have turned up his pug nose at this, but I love it. And I like it more than the Quiller Couch version, which is very, very idiosyncratic. Oh my God. Couldn't really be called a conscientious anthology of English verse, even in its own day, much less now. This is much closer to that, and I like that very much. And then an oldie bit of goodie, I think this is from the 1930s. This is G.F. Young's Biography of the Medici. And this also has been reissued many, many times, including many times. This is the Modern Library edition. They've issued it many times as well. But I like the cover. I know it's very shallow, but my loving of the book is not shallow. It's just what it looks like, and that's for it to be in this room. And then the last thing on this shelf, shelf number 2 of the thin west wall bookcase, the middle west wall bookcase, is this beautiful thing from the University of Chicago from years ago. It's the complete works of Catherine Parr, the last wife of Henry VIII. And the first woman ever to publish a book in English under her own name, an intellect, and a fairly fascinating person in her own right. And this is a collection of everything that she wrote with a huge amount of scholarly annotation. Just a joy to look at. And I got it years and years ago as a cast-off review copy from the Wall Street Journal, from their book room. And I've kept it this whole time because it shows how out of step I am with most of the critical world. The post-it note in the back with instructions for the little gnomes that run their book room. I don't know if you can read it. It says toss. I did not toss. I do not think this is irredeemable. I actually think it's absolutely fascinating. And there you have it. That is bookshelf number 2. So we're creeping our way down here. I'm sorry about pulling them down off the shelf, but the last video had a lot of you speculating that I might be 7 feet tall. So I thought I'd position the camera to correct that. And we'll move on to the next shelf in due order. Thank you, BookTube.